All right, welcome into the Daily Fix as it is a beautiful Thursday, and we're getting closer and closer to the wild card. To the divisional round of games. And yes, the Chiefs and Texans kick things off coming up on Saturday. So closer and closer we get right here. You are listening to the Daily Fix with your guy, Ron Hughley, 12 Central Standard Time every single day. Tell a friend or 19, please, as we continue to try to grow this thing right there in that little box where he rightfully belongs is the very Alivarius Steven Serta.
I don't think that's a word, but hi.
I want to do it every day. I made up there. He had the very Alivarius Steven Serta, who also is got his guitar. He's ready to slow this thing down. This is a good look there. I like that burgundy. Steve Serta's in the building, as he does, and is with us every single day. All right, those of you who have not done so, damn it, we appreciate you listening every day. If this is your first time, welcome in. What we do need you to do is head to our YouTube channel. Please go to Foolish Club Media YouTube, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe as we continue to try to grow this thing. Remember, if you do not do so, you're preventing my three children from eating. And we got powerful content for you coming up tomorrow, show and BK. So you might want to catch that. Also, as well, the post-game show coming up with Serta and Rocky.
We will also have a special pregame show on Saturday before the divisional round.
You're damn right we will, baby. So a lot of content coming in for you. Like and subscribe so you can be a part of that. Not going to hold you too long. I heard something about a kid who is entering the draft. Serta, these better be lies. These better be lies, because this dude is a fool if it isn't. Also, one thing that the Chiefs are going to have to look out for. It was the same thing in the first game, but it is still the same thing, and it's even more important in this game. But I want to start here, Steve, and this is something that I've been thinking about, and I wanted to talk to you and the folks about. And that is in this game coming up against the Texans on Saturday. Can the Chiefs get away winning this game without Patrick Mahomes having to throw on his magical cape? Right? There are some games in this season, for the last several years that they've become this dynasty, sort of where, like, hey, man, Pat had to go grab the cape. He had to go grab the cape. And, a few times it hasn't worked, but many times he's had to go grab the cape. He had to do it, I think, against Buffalo last year. He had to do it against the Niners last year. There were moments where he had to go grab the cape. Last year, the first game they played against the Miami Dolphins, he didn't have to grab the cape, right? He could just play solid football, and make good decisions, not turn the ball over. Hey, let's just grab points. Butker kicked 5 field goals in that game, and the Dolphins really didn't want to play in that game, and the Chiefs defense kind of held him down. I think even against the Ravens, he didn't really have to grab the cape. He started off hot, but then the Chiefs defense was giving Lamar hell so much, he could just play football and play solid football and do what was needed to do to win games. And that's really kind of been the space the last several years where he hadn't had to go grab a cape. I think it is big if the Chiefs can get away in this game. And I do think that they are the better team and can do this if, this is one where Mahomes doesn't have to go and just be all out magical. And I think it is there for them. And I think one big thing to look at, Steve, is in the last 12 weeks, Serta, the Texans offense has scored more than 2 touchdowns once. In the last 12 weeks.
Their defense has scored a lot of touchdowns. So.
They've scored 5 times in that time frame. But in the last 12 weeks, 11 of the 12 games, they've scored 2 offensive touchdowns or less. All right. So that's why I'm thinking to myself, hey, the next round, it's hard for me not to think that he's not going to have to grab the cape if the Chiefs are able to advance. This round, it feels like a game that he doesn't have to grab the cape. I think he had a big first drive. I don't necessarily think that Mahomes had to grab the cape the first time these two teams played. I think that is one to watch in a run when you're trying to win 3 games to win a championship. The amount of games where he doesn't have to just spin the Mahomes magic bullets is a big thing.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think like they need him to come out here and like just be this dominant version of himself that he hasn't necessarily been this season. They just need him to do what he's been doing the last several weeks, which is just be surgical, like just pick the defense apart and don't turn the football over. But we might get a couple of moments from him in this game, because when you look at the Chiefs playoff wins over the last several years, like when Mahomes is healthy and when he doesn't leave the game with an injury or whatever, and these kinds of situations against, the 4 seed in their first playoff matchup or whatever, the Chiefs have pretty much been dominant in these games, except for the ones where Mahomes has got hurt and left early or missed time in the game because of injury. So as long as they keep him upright, as long as they protect him, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to do just fine. I think the Chiefs offense is going to look good.
Yeah, there have been games where we've watched where he's just had to drag their asses across the finish line. I just don't know that he may have to in this game. That's one to watch, to where this to me feels like I'll say this. I think CJ Stroud probably, Steve, has to play maybe his best game of the season. He'll or approach maybe the best game he's played in his career. I think the talent and what the Chiefs can do with the Texans offense, I think this should be a game where, hey, make plays, as you said, be surgical, and don't help them. So that's where I feel like the hope is where it is for the Chiefs. All right, and the other part on this, and the thing that can really lead to that, is one of the things that happened in game 1 that to me was a surprise, and especially in that time frame, Steve, if you remember, he's coming off the ankle injury against Cleveland, and leading up to that, like he had before that Cleveland game against, I want to say, the Raiders and the Panthers, hell, he had gotten sacked 10 times in those 2 games, like back-to-back games of 5 sacks apiece, right? And then he had been hit more than anybody in football at that point. They had been struggling. In that game, that was the game. It was like, there's Danielle Hunter, didn't touch him. There is Will Anderson, didn't touch him. Barnett probably had the best. If you remember, he got the hit, and it ended up being roughing the passer, but it did come close to being a strip sack, but he hit him in the helmet. That was the closest thing they got to him. Danico Autry didn't really get it. They got 1 sack, and it was a blitz from a linebacker in which he kind of confused Caliendo. But they didn't pressure Mahomes very much at all. I do believe that Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter will factor more than they did in the first game. It is just, you got to weather it, Steve, and it can't be like, yo, man, they're taking up like what Max Crosby and the Raiders have done before, or what the Chargers have done to this team, to where it's like, damn, man, they can't even run nothing because of this. And they were able to win those games. But I think that is the big key. I'm not going to sit here and walk out and say that they are going to go and just have those guys not touch them like they did the first game, although I do think Andy is going to keep them off balance and not just drop back and stand back there and Herbert just hold the ball back there and invite getting destroyed, or just completely unleash Will Anderson untouched off the end like the Chargers did a couple of times. But I do think you got to, as Chiefs fans, expect that those guys will have a bigger impact. No other tandem of edge rushers had more sacks than those 2 guys, but the Chiefs just have to manage it like they've done most of the year.
Yeah, this is the biggest matchup of the week. It's the Chiefs offensive line versus the Texans pass rush. And I think it's the most important aspect of this game. And like you said, it's like even in the first matchup, it's like this one's different because it's do or die. So the Texans are going to do absolutely everything they can to try to get to Patrick Mahomes. And not to say that they didn't do that before, but the Chiefs had a decent enough game plan. But this time around, I would have to imagine D'Amico Ryans is going to throw everything he can at the Chiefs offensive line to try to get to Mahomes. And it feels like that's the thing that could make this thing unravel or something. If all of a sudden it looks like that Raiders game where Mahomes doesn't even have 2 seconds to do anything with the football because the Chiefs offensive line is getting obliterated. Like, it just can't be that. And whether it's DJ Humphries or Joe Tooney, I would have to imagine the Chiefs are going to have a decent enough game plan, but they just have to manage it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Oh, and you know, it's going to be adjustments made from Andy, right? And it's going to be adjustments made from D'Amico, right? And I think, as you said, I think there's going to be more blitzing and more attempts at pressures. But you know, Andy ain't going to just sit back there and just let him get caught. We saw it a little bit more. I think another key is Patrick will have to be moving better than he did entering that first game. So I think moving the pocket's a thing, and they did it a little bit in that game. And like, they're going to slow it down, not just running the football, but they're going to use Will Anderson and Stingley coming off the edges hard, and they're going to run reverses. They're going to run misdirection stuff. They're going to do things to at least slow them down and make them think. So, but it is the big key of the game. It is what helped them turn teams over, like the Lions, like the Chargers last week, like the Dolphins 3, 4, 5 times in those games. All right. Finally, this report. We understood that Quinn Ewers of Texas entered the draft, Serta, and it was a little interesting to hear from that because, it was word that he may go to a Big Ten team. It was words that Oregon might take him, but he went to the draft, which was weird anyway because I've seen him at best late second round, but most people think third round or maybe even fourth. Sources are coming out saying that Quinn Ewers sort of turned down $8 million in NIL money to transfer somewhere to go to the draft. I'm going to need that to be confirmed by Quinn for me to believe that. Sort of, he won't make $8 million even if he gets drafted for like the next 2 years in the third or fourth round.
Yeah.
$8 million. Like, and listen, man, like, this dude is a destined backup quarterback. Now, maybe we see this in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and we go back to this on this day, on the Daily Fix of January 26th of 2025. And damn, Ron, you were off on this take. But man, $8 million to play one more year. I know this class is a little weaker, but that is wild for him to turn this down when he's not going to be a guaranteed first. He's going to have a hell of a combine to jump in the first round. And I know people get horny for quarterbacks out here, but I just don't think Quinn is a guy that people are knocking down the door to get a hold of when there's $8 million potentially. That this has to be a lie.
I mean, that is an insane amount of money to turn down. And he's 21 years old, so it's not like he's like, it's not like he's an older player or something like that. Like, it would be totally fine for him to stay in college for another year. And it says a lot that it's a weak quarterback draft class and he's not even a projected first round pick. So
Yes.
it comes down to like, then, okay, well, he's going to have to crush the combine. He's going to have to really impress these teams to skyrocket his draft stock or something. Otherwise, you're right. He's going to be a third or a fourth round quarterback who's not going to sniff that kind of money for years until he gets an opportunity to play and has to impress when he gets that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe $8 million. Like, I'm just trying to think of some of the second or third round picks that the Chiefs have. Like, when is Jaden Hicks going to make $8 million? Year 3? He's not making it like that is wild to me. Hell, even if it was
I'd be
4.
surprised if his entire rookie deal is worth
It's,
much more
yes,
total than $8
especially-
million.
It's crazy. Come on, Quinn. Hi, Mom. And Courtney.